welcome to this year's Auburn Election Candidate Forum. I'm so glad that we are able to be in person. I don't know if you joined us before on Zoom. It was a great time, but we are so excited. I think I can say for everyone to be in person. My name is Caitlin Norwood. I am an Auburn High School alumni, class of 2018. I'm currently a senior. I will be graduating in less than a month from Suffolk University, summa cum laude with a public relations major and journalism minor. Just want to explain quickly how our forum will run today. We're going to have candidates give a brief intro and welcome statement, and then we're going to jump into questions. Each candidate will have 2 to 3 minutes to answer with their remarks. And then to close out, we will also have a brief open forum session where people in person, sadly, those watching are not able to comment, but those in person will have a chance to ask any burning questions they might have. And just as a note, we have 2 candidates who are unable to be here today, Chet and Mary. However, they have submitted responses that I will be happy to share for them. However, there will be no open forum questions related to them. Okay, now let's start. I'm very excited to hear our candidate intros. Let's start with our school positions.
Okay, hi everybody, my name is Samantha Rayfield and I'm running for the 3-year seat on the Auburn School Committee. I'm a mother of 2 Auburn students. My oldest daughter, Freya, is gonna be in 4th grade next year at Swiss, and my youngest is at kindergarten right now, going to 1st grade at Packagug. My husband, Aaron, and I moved to Auburn about 6 years ago, and we have fallen in love with the town. And I am a 6th grade history teacher in a nearby district at Knox Trail Middle School in Spencer. I have also taught 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade as well. I have mentored numerous new teachers in my district, so I'm very well aware of like how schools work and so on and so forth. I have a Bachelor of Arts in History from Union College in Schenectady, New York, and I have a master's in teaching from the Graduate College of Union University, which is now Clarkson University. Also, I'm volunteering to help out with my daughter's softball team. This is the 2nd year I've done so, Auburn Fast Pitch, and that is where my husband and 2 girls are right now, is playing softball and baseball, so good luck to them.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to take a moment to thank Tristan and Caitlin for putting on this forum together for us all. I'm sure it was not easy and it took a lot of time to put together, so thank you. And thank you all for taking the time to attend and those listening at home. My name is Brooke Ren and I'm running for the 2-year seat for school committee. I live here in Auburn with my husband, Scott Ren, and my 2 daughters, Madison, who is in 8th grade, and Kennedy, who is in 5th grade. I worked in the Auburn school system for 8 years as an ABA instructional assistant, leaving when I had my daughter Madison in 2008. I am currently a realtor, and last year I bought into Emerson Realtors here in Auburn. Last year, I also made the leap into the writing world and have currently written 2 books that will get published later this year. I was a member of the Auburn Rotary Club from 2000 to roughly 2008, and during that time, I served as secretary, vice president, and president. I helped my mother-in-law, Beth Johnson, start the Early Act Club that was sponsored by the Rotary Club in the early 2000s.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's hand it over to Glenn for the moderator position.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to also thank Tristan and Caitlin for putting on this event. I've been a resident here in Auburn for 35 years. My name is Glenn Feldman. I've been married to my wife for 37 years, Sandy, who's here tonight. And we have a daughter, Jennifer, who lives down on the Cape in Dennisport with 2 grandchildren, ages 24 and 14. And I've been a town meeting member for over 20 years. And I work locally here for Worcester County Air Freight. I'm a truck driver. And I work with a terrific bunch of people. It's a great company, female-owned by a nice lady and her 2 daughters. And I'm dedicating my campaign to the 120 town meeting members in order to give them the proper representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. And I'm just going to read Chet Stenzel's statement as he was unable to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Chet Stenzel. My education includes a Bachelor of Science in Education from Westfield State University and a master's degree in psychology and guidance from Assumption University. I have been an educator for more than 50 years. In 1970, I married, and we had 3 children by 1976. That is when we began our involvement as a family in Auburn. We joined PTO, and I became involved in coaching kids' sports and helping in scouting programs. We joined St. Joseph's Church and enjoyed working with youth groups there. For over 10 years, we have participated in Relay for Life and 4th of July committees. I volunteered and was asked to join several committees in town. Then, in the late 70s, I was elected to be a town meeting member. In 2015, I was elected town moderator. Also, at that time, I joined the KFC, the Knights of Columbus, and Elks. Through the years, our family has enjoyed being Auburnites and making many longtime friendships, and we were greatly humbled a few years ago when my wife and I were presented the Riley Award by Dr. Martha Pappas and her committee for our contribution to Auburn. And for those just tuning in, that was Chet Stencil. I was not alive in the 70s, so was not me. And now we will be passing it over to Stephen Chambers for Select Board.
I'd like to thank you for putting this together as well. I'd like to thank other candidates. I think the community's better served with more people volunteering their time and effort. You guys are all very impressive. It's very difficult for me to talk about myself because I'm really not here for myself, but I did write some things down. So currently, I'm the vice chair of the Auburn Planning Board. I got involved with that when I saw a call to action on Facebook. They were looking for volunteers. I read through them. There were several positions open, came in and talked to the town manager, and we found a spot that really suited my goals as well as help the town. So the planning board is very important. No action can really happen if you don't have the board there. Without 3 members minimum, then nothing can happen. So I joined that as an alternate. Then when we had some turnover there, I became a full-time planning board member. Now I'm the vice chair. Through that, I also, again, volunteered to become a member of the Open Space Committee. Again, having the ability to have these plans in allows the town to seek funding, more planning, getting the funds from the state, but also know which direction we want to go. So when things become available, we're ready to act on those. And I was voted vice chair of that board as well. I'm also a delegate for the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. So again, representing the town of Auburn in the regional aspects, making sure the transportation, not me personally, but that's the goal of the board, the transportation in the communities. And we get a lot of funding through them and help us apply for grants. So the volunteer hours that we put in for that come back in real hours for planning for our town as well, helping update the GIS maps and such, so we can really see what's going on, including like complete streets and making sure we have a more walkable and rideable community as well as access for those that need that. So that's my volunteerism through the town. I was a Marine from 98 to 2006, served the country there. Learned a lot, learned how to get along with a lot of people, learned how to set plans into action, and that's what I hope to do here. As far as education, I'm a lifelong learner. I didn't take the typical go to high school, go to college route. I did veer off, tried to go to college. It wasn't for me. Found my way back. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in project management and then a master's degree from Mass Maritime after that. So continue to learn every day. I'm hoping that you guys see me in action and in the town and know that I'm here to support you.
Great, thank you, Stephen. And now I'll just briefly read Mary's statement, pulling double duty this evening. Hello, my name is Mary Kay DeCourcy, and I'm an independent of political affiliation in order to listen to all community members without any political agenda. I have been consistently described by my students as quote unquote chill or strict in an easygoing way throughout my 30-year career in education. When pressed for an elaboration, they will emphasize that I am all about respect, community, and belonging. That is exactly correct. That translates very similarly in all the roles that I play at home, in my faith community, and while serving as a member of a board, on a team, or a commission. It is my intention to be inclusive and to interact with all members openly, honestly, and thoughtfully. To meet that effectively, I have had to develop the the ability to communicate effectively, and at times draw a hard and fast line when it is necessary. Difficult conversations are a challenge for most people, but I've learned that in public life they, along with an occasional conflict, are very healthy and necessary in order to make systems work. As a candidate for Select Board, I will always begin with the end in mind, with a constructivist philosophy and a desire to listen and to represent the needs of all of our community members. Thank you all. Awesome. Well, thank you all for the introductions. We're going to begin now our round of questioning, which sounds very, very formal, but I promise that's not. And we're actually going to start with our two friends all the way down there. The first question is, why are you seeking the position of school committee member? And if elected, what can residents expect to see from you? What made you interested in local and town government?
I was sad to hear that George Scobie and Dorothy Kaufman were not running for re-election. They were both wonderful members who dedicated their time, they worked hard, and made tough decisions. Those are some very tough shoes to fill. Thank you to George and Dorothy for all that you do for school committee and the town of Auburn. I chose to run for the 2-year seat because, as many of us, we believe in the teachers, the instructional assistants, the principals, the vice principals, the administrators, and most importantly, the children. We currently have excellent members on the school committee, including Megan McGrillis, Jesse Harrington, and Gail Holloway. I choose to run because, along with those members, I believe we can continue to make decisions that benefit the school and the taxpayers. There's a sign that hung outside the main office at the Mary D. Stone School, and I have a similar one hanging in my house now. It reads, "We practice kindness every day." I try to live by that. I know there are people who know more than me, but the question I ask myself is, do I care? And the answer is yes, absolutely I do. It's because I care, I will always be willing to learn and give 100% to the position of school committee member. What made me interested in local and town government is an easy question to answer. Some of you may remember Beth Johnson. She was the principal at the Mary D. Stone School right behind us until she retired in 2008. She was also my mother-in-law. When she was principal, she hosted a community celebration every Friday afternoon. All the kids would gather in the gym, along with family, and members of the Auburn community were always welcome. It was an hour that kids got an opportunity to perform. I watched kids sing, dance, do magic tricks, tell jokes, all kinds of stuff. I had the opportunity to attend every Friday because I worked at Mary D. I saw firsthand the kids, families, and members of the community come together, and it was magical. Those moments made me realize how important being a part of a community was. It's because of those Friday afternoons that gave me the love for this town and our community, and that's why I like to be involved.
Thank you. So I agree that we are losing George and Dorothy, and that's such a shame for us because they are unbelievable members of the Auburn School Committee. The reason why I'm seeking the position of a school committee member and I'm running for, again, the 3-year seat is because of my love for education. I wake up every day and I go into a school, and I want to continue to do that even outside of the school community of my daily 9 to 5 per se. I want to be an integral part of my children's education, and I want to ensure that other students in Auburn also have the best opportunities to them. Auburn is an unbelievable school district. I want to continue to see it that way, and want to continue to be successful in the future. I also want to show my children how important civic duty is. As a history teacher, I teach it, but I think it's important to show it as well. Residents can expect a few things from me. One, I believe in being an advocate, an active listener, and a voice of the parents. I also believe that my opinion is completely secondary in my role as a school committee member. I think that I'm allowed to have my own personal opinion, but when it comes to controversial issues, I want to listen to the townspeople and see what their point of view is first. I want to continue to work with current members of the school committee. We have a wonderful school committee, and I just think we need to continue what we've been doing on a daily basis. what made me interested in town and local government is not only, like I said, my love for education, but also my love for the town of Auburn. I was not born and raised in Massachusetts, but I have come to love Massachusetts, and no matter how hard my family tries, we are never leaving. And you know, I wake up every day, I love my job, and teaching is truly my calling, and I want to continue that. Like I said, both in school and out of school. And I want to continue to make sure that we continue to foster a love of learning and teaching in Auburn.
Awesome, thank you so much. We're gonna go over to our select board. This first question will be for all the positions. So to you, Stephen, and to Mary, whose answer I have, why are you seeking the position of selectman? And if elected, what can residents expect to see from you? What made you interested in local and town government?
I'll start with that last section. So what made me interested was civics class, right? So we're a great country. A lot of work and effort went into the system of government and for the people, by the people. So what made me interested is learning how this country developed and understanding that we have a voice. And over the years, many people feel that their voice isn't necessarily being heard, and they become apathetic, especially in town politics if they're expecting action and they don't get the action they want. But again, being a fan of history and understanding, there are a lot of roadblocks in the way, and it's trying to navigate those. It's what makes it successful. We have different views from everybody in town, but I think the goal of everyone in town is to make this more prosperous, make it an enjoyable community. So being more centered than most people, I'm not on either end of the spectrum. I'm about the goals and not about individual politics. So I think getting in, if you so choose to vote me in as a selectman, I am that centered voice, and I've had conversations with people on all sides of the aisle and all sides of every topic that comes up. And really, it comes down to what the goal is, right? And maybe we have a different path to get there. Understanding what that path is, we'll have more commonalities than people would expect. So when you look at national government and the politics that go on there, it's very divisive. But down home, we can work together and we can show, federal government how it's done. We can work to get more tax dollars back into the hands of this community, make it more prosperous, and provide a good neighborly environment for everybody. There was another part to that question over there.
It was, why are you seeking the position of selectman, and what can residents
Yep.
expect?
So I first started seeking the selectman position because I didn't think anyone else was going to step up. At the time, previous I got involved, there was rumors that Tristan was not going to seek re-election. So I got in, and then what ended up happening with Chief Salukas and that we had an opportunity. So I wanted to make sure we had representation. It might not have been the best representation, but somebody needs to represent us. So it's not about me. It really isn't. It's about the people and making sure that we're holding our town officials to the highest standards that we expect and trying to get the most back to the community.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm now going to read Mary's response. She also just wanted to thank everyone for letting her provide written text. She's a middle school athletic coach, so she had a predetermined commitment. I am seeking a leadership position in Auburn because I see a need for governmental transparency in the town, inclusion of residents in decisions that impact our community, and a more robust and effective evaluation for all town employees to ensure each and every member of our community is provided with warm, professional, and effective customer service upon every interaction. I purchased a home on William Street in Auburn in 2014 in order to be closer to my family. My neighbors are consistently kind, considerate, and look out for one another in a way that makes me proud to reside in Auburn. In all of my experiences on the Library Board of Trustees, Auburn Little League, Friends of Auburn Public Library, and the Auburn Cultural Council, the volunteers have been impeccably professional, generous, and truly engaged in efforts to improve the quality of life for our residents. In contrast, too many taxpayers experience the runaround when we approach town leadership about concerns such as speeding vehicles in our thickly settled residential neighborhoods, excessive and unnecessary noise, and many other matters involving public safety. Despite having a speeding car crash into my front lawn on December 18th, 2018, and another vehicle crash through my next door neighbor's front door, we have had and continue to receive canned responses upon inquiry about measures to protect us from these hazardous scenarios moving forward. The hiring of a new town manager is a pivotal opportunity to improve the quality of life for all Auburn residents, and it is imperative that Auburn residents have access and input on that very important decision. On Monday, the Select Board discussed scheduling a vote to appoint our current town manager's replacement on May 9th before the May 2020 election. How many residents are even aware that the discussion occurred and that a vote is planned for May 9th at the Select Board meeting? Is that transparency? I think not. It is imperative that Auburn residents are properly informed about the identity of and qualifications of each candidate before this decision is made, and as it will require our tax money to support a salary that is nearly $250,000 annually. Thank you. And now I will hand it over to Glenn. Glenn, I have the same question for you. I'm happy to repeat it though. Why are you seeking the position of town moderator? And if elected, what can residents expect from you? What made you interested in local and town government?
Thank you. We have 120 great town meeting members. And there is great frustration that they are experiencing over the last 5 or 6 years with the performance of Mr. Stencil as our moderator. And I have experienced that myself because I've attended every meeting that he has presided over. And I felt during the course of the last couple of years that it was time for someone to step up from the ranks of the town meeting members and challenge him. Mr. Stencil's a fine man. He's had a great career, and he's done a lot of great things in this town. I have a lot of respect for him. Him and I are also have something else in common. We both have season tickets to the New England Patriots. So he's a very smart guy for doing that as well, because they now have a 9-year waiting list. But it's just very frustrating for a lot of the town meeting members that I've spoken to, and I would have to tell you that the great majority of them are supporting me for the position. My challenge is to get the general public to vote for me, and that's why I'm here tonight, to try to convince them to give me a chance as we go forward. I think residents can expect to see from me, if I am fortunate enough to get the position, constant improvement over the years as time goes by. I will work hard to find out what I don't know and learn it, and I will try to do the job as best I can, be fair, and recognize everyone that raises their hands, and make sure that the meetings are run in an efficient manner and an effective way. What got me interested in town politics was basically having Kevin Hussey from my next door neighbor several years ago. He's a fine gentleman. He wound up later on becoming the chairman of the finance committee. And him and I used to have a lot of nice discussions about politics in town. And he really got me interested once he moved back to the house he grew up in. He bought it from his father. And I haven't seen him in a while, but I hope to run into him at some point. And I'll make sure to let him know that, unless he's watching now he knows. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. And now I'm happy to read Chet's statement as well. Residents will see someone who has lived in Auburn for 53 years. I have participated in town meetings for most of those years. It is our town, and I encourage all who are able to get involved in some way to make our town better. Being an incumbent, I feel I have earned the respect of many residents who know me and are not shy about asking me questions or giving me their opinion on many topics which concern them. I often try to direct them to the person I know who can help with further questions, whether at the meetings or elsewhere. At meetings, I try to be respectful and try to give time to everyone who wishes to speak. It is not an easy job. I do not make the rules, I just try to follow them. In order to learn more, I joined the Mass Moderators Association, We meet together if possible to share information, although COVID has made several of those meetings virtual. I also occasionally meet with the town manager and her staff. Thank you, Chet. Going back to our friends over at the school board down that side, I would love to know, in your opinion, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing the Auburn school system, and how do you plan to help address them?
All right, so this was a kind of question that, as a teacher, I'm getting a lot. And I think the biggest challenges that are facing all schools right now are the COVID gaps, both academically and social emotionally. And with my own children, I've seen and experienced these gaps. And to start, we really need to educate teachers on how to handle these academic and social emotional gaps that are popping up. It's unprecedented. I've been in education for over 15 years, and we're seeing things that we have never seen before. So we need to teach teachers how to best handle these gaps that are popping up. We need after-school and in-school programming. I know that most schools have a social worker, but we really need to give the teachers on the front lines the opportunity to learn how to handle some of these behaviors and academics gaps that we're really seeing. The caveat is that it's so differentiated, that we're seeing something happening with one student that's not happening with another. And so we really need to support our teachers and families, and based on their own specific child's needs. Another challenge that I see in Auburn is growth. We currently have a 13.7 to 1 student-to-teacher ratio, which is amazing. But we have roughly a little over 2,500 students here in Auburn, and 188 teachers. The state ratio is 11.9 to 1, so we are a little above the state ratio, but not too much. But I want to make sure that we keep that elementary school cap at 25 per classroom, because I think based on the studies and the science behind it, that we need to keep that as small as possible. And we know that schools across Massachusetts and across the country as a whole are facing smaller and stagnant budgets, so we need to work within what we have. And we really need to look at what we can do to make sure the students are getting the best opportunities available to them. So we need to just continue on the course that we are and make sure that we're just meeting what our students need at this point in time.
Thank you, Sam. Brooke?
First, I'd like to say first you're going to hear that Sam and I kind of agree on a lot of stuff. First, I'd like to say I believe we have a wonderful school system. We have highly educated and dedicated administrators, teachers, faculty, and staff. We are extremely lucky. 2 years ago, all school systems faced some of the most difficult decisions. Schools shutting down, classes being taught through Zoom, kids having to wear masks. I know when I had children, I never thought we would face these challenges. We did the best we could to get through. Now, as we start to get back to some normalcy, these kids are facing new challenges. Some of those challenges include closing the education gap that was caused due to these closed schools and online learning. Not only were kids faced with closed schools, but they lost school sports, school clubs. Another thing that ended due to COVID that I'd love to see come back is integrating our youth with senior citizens. When we teach our kids about community, we want them to know that part of being a community is helping and serving one another. Perhaps we can offer students the opportunity to assist with activities at the senior center, visiting the life care center, volunteering for Meals on Wheels. I know some of these things were offered before COVID, but hopefully now we can get back to them and offer even more. Sadness, anxiety, and depression children have experienced during this pandemic is real, and it cannot be overlooked. The pressure of school has become too much for many kids. The town did receive a grant, and you heard Sam talk about it. And this allowed guidance counselors and social workers and the help of Auburn Youth and Family Services available to our students. As a school committee member, I will work to make sure we continue to be able to help. And as this pandemic will subside, mental health effects, they'll be around a lot longer. I plan to work with current members of the school committee as well as the superintendent, because working together is how we accomplish challenges and tasks at hand. I would also love to hear from the principals, the vice principals, teachers, instructional assistants, guidance counselors, and most importantly, from families and students. I will be available by phone, email. Do not hesitate to stop me if you see me out and about in town, because together is how we make an impact.
Thank you, Brooke. Though if she's busy at Shaw's grocery shopping, I don't know if you want to stop her there.
You can
But,
stop me.
Stop us,
Moving
yeah.
on to the town moderator, Glenn and Chet
Ready?
as well.
Thank you.
Town meeting has struggled in the past to fill open seats. How, if at all, would you work as town moderator to encourage more people in the community to get involved with town meetings?
I think the operative word there is struggle. We have struggled to put people in the seats. We have struggled to find additional town meeting members. But I think it really boils down to the fact that the moderator himself has struggled during the course of these meetings, and they've become a little tedious for people and very frustrating for them, the town meeting members I'm talking about. And I think if we put a more quality product out there for the people, that they would be more willing to join town meeting and more willing, if they already had a seat, to actually show up. So I think it's important that we improve the atmosphere at town meeting and make it more productive, more patriotic, and also more enjoyable. So that's what I would seek to do. As far as finding new members, I would just start with word of mouth, because I've actually spoken to 2 different people recently in the last 6 months, and they're both on the ballot. Basically, when you hear people start complaining, tell them to run and join us so that we can solve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. And now I'll have Chet's response. In the past, I have encouraged individuals and explained how to get involved as a town meeting member. Even at the last minute, if there are still vacancies, I tell people to become a write-in candidate and just have them tell others to vote for them. I have seen people to bring address stickers and pass them out to people in their precinct to put on their ballot. I and family members have voted for write-in candidates at the moment's notice. This is not a new idea, but I have seen some members bring family or friends to sit in the rear of the auditorium and observe. This may be a good idea also for high school teachers to encourage their students to attend. In any case, no one has to sign up. Just show up and observe if you're interested. And now I will head over to the select board. This is a little bit longer of a question. Feel free if you need me to repeat it, anyone in the audience as well.
I would like you just to state my answer. You're so eloquent. So,
Me too. We could just all leave.
The construction of a public safety complex has been part of a discussion in town for many years. The potential of such a large public project has caused the current select board to begin debating a wage theft bylaw aimed at making it harder for subcontractors hired on municipal projects to avoid paying their workers. What are your thoughts on the proposal? What are your thoughts on the public safety complex?
yep. So wage theft, it's a crime, hence it's a theft. So enforce it. Do we need additional bylaws to enforce it? I don't know. I don't think we do. I think we need to enforce the laws that we have, and at the state level, they can enhance those. But if anyone's taking money out of someone else's pocket for work that they did, yeah, prosecute them to the full extent. What do we get by adding a bylaw in? Do we restrict the people that want to bid on these projects? They already have to be vetted to bid on these public projects. So what are we really getting? Do we need more laws? I'm not in favor of more laws. I'm just in favor of fixing the ones we have. It sounds like we don't have a prosecution of these laws or the theft. So leave it where it is my opinion on that. As far as the public safety complex, we do have to address it. I'm in favor of continuing the planning. We have had trouble getting people to submit bids for land. If we can't build a complex that's all-inclusive and we still need to maintain outposts, that's not going to help the ROI. And really, you want to see, what are we investing? How long is it going to last? Can we evolve with it? We have a 25-year-old police station that was developed and built. I think buildings last more than 25 years. So this time, let's get it right. Let's make it so we can grow with the building. Let's make it flexible. We have EV vehicles in the fleet. Let's make sure we're addressing that. How are we going to power these vehicles? What's that look like? What other requirements are needed? The department heads have had these discussions. So let's put it on the ballot, because the town is going to have to vote for it. Let's make sure it's right, make sure that it meets our long-term needs as well as our current needs. But also, let's not do this again in 20 years. Let's make it so we can actually pay the building off and not have to spend more money when that's up.
Thank you. For context, I'm 22, so that building is in fact older than me. I will now read Mary's statement. The proposal to construct a $40 million safety complex that would combine the police station and the 2 fire complexes is a perfect example of a project that necessitates input from taxpayers. By input, I do not mean a passive invitation to a select board meeting where we sit and listen. The select board and town administration would best gauge community support by offering regular, brief surveys to every household on topics that require the genuine investment of community members. This proposal had taken place prior to the COVID-19 crisis that greatly impacted household income, the inflation of costs and services, not to mention the quality of life for our children, youth, adults, and senior citizens. Now is not the time to ask fatigued and financially drained residents to consider a $40 million project. Rather than to engage in a debate about a hypothetical wage theft scenario, I would prefer to direct my energy into providing local business owners and employees with the facts about the wage theft bylaw to ensure that real workers are receiving real and fair compensation from employers, and that employers are aware that the select board cares about laws pertaining to fair labor. In the role of labor activist, I had recently addressed one Auburn business owner about withholding wages from his hardworking staff repeatedly as illegal and unacceptable in our fine town. I believe this practice to be more widespread than consumers are aware of at this time. I will not support a proposal or discussion about a public safety complex until Auburn residents are informed and included in all of the details of such a proposal. Thank you, Mary. Heading back over to the school positions. The next school board will be responsible for hiring the next superintendent. What qualities will you look for in the candidates? How will you include at all parents and staff in the decision?
So Sam and I attended the school committee meeting yesterday evening, and we had the great opportunity to watch the school committee appoint Beth Chamberlain superintendent through June 2003. 2023. What did I say? Sorry.
2003.
No. Beth Chamberlain came to work on a Monday morning and stepped into the shoes as acting superintendent, and she did it seamlessly. Beth has worked so hard as a principal for Bryn Mawr and then assistant superintendent, and showed she cares and is dedicated to the schools, the faculty, and most importantly, the kids. I support the decision the school committee made last night. With all the hard work George and Dorothy put in through the years, they had every right to take part in the vote to appoint Beth Chamberlain. As Jesse Harrington said last night, why look for a shooter when you have Larry Bird on the bench? There's a sign that hangs in the school committee room that reads, "Kids first," and Beth Chamberlain does exactly that. It showed immediately last night's meeting when 2 incredible high school students got up and spoke about Model United Nations, one of the many clubs offered to the high school students. As they spoke, it was clear to see the pride she had for them. I am 100% in support of the decision and hope that in June 2023, her contract is extended.
So I agree 100% that George and Dorothy absolutely should have been involved in appointing Dr. Chamberlain. And in fact, that was going to be my suggestion tonight, is to offer Dr. Chamberlain a short-term contract to really show us what she can do when she is the superintendent of Auburn Public Schools. As a teacher, I've seen what can happen when a superintendency goes wrong, and it is devastating, not only to the teachers, but to the support staff and to the students who are impacted the most. So I'm really pleased that we're going to get that stability. And I also agree that I would love to see her continue in 2023. But if we were to open it up, the things that I would be looking for is stability. We want someone who is not going to make Auburn a stepping stone to a better job. We are the better job here in Auburn, and we want them to maintain that this is where they want to be. And that's what Dr. Chamberlain wants. She wants to be here. She has a love for Auburn the way we do up here and the way people do in the town. The past few years have been really tumultuous all across Massachusetts, and I think that having a superintendent who wants to be here and wants to make this the best district it can be. But the most important qualities, I think, for a superintendent is transparency, and that is what Dr. Chamberlain is doing. We are getting emails every single day. I actually look forward to her emails. An open door policy, I've heard from numerous staff and parents that she has an open door. And just communication. And again, the most important thing I think here is stability. We want someone who wants to be here, and that's the most important thing for me. And as with any superintendent search, it should not just be the school committee. It should be parents, it should be students, it should be teachers. It should be open to everyone. And I think that's what makes a good search committee, is that it is open to everyone and that we listen. Again, I stand by the fact that my opinion is secondary on the school committee board. I want to listen to what the townspeople, and if someone were to stop me in Shaw's and talk to me, I'd be more than happy, unless my little 5-year-old's with me and then you want me to leave. But I think that it's important that we are open to, listening to the townspeople of Auburn and hearing what they have to say, because I am just one person and there's many more residents that have opinions. And that's what's important to me, is hearing everyone's opinion.
Thank you, Sam and Brooke. Going back to selectmen, this is quite an open-ended question, so I appreciate maybe sticking to one issue. What do you believe are the biggest challenges facing Auburn, and how would you go about working on them? Again, pretty open-ended, so.
Sure. The biggest problem I see, and it's already been discussed, is getting people to volunteer, getting people involved. And some people like to be angry before they get involved, and I don't think that helps. I think if you were to come and volunteer and put your time and effort in and get yelled at, where's the incentive to stay? You're pretty much disenfranchising that person's voice. We're a community of a lot of people with a lot of different opinions. Getting angry isn't going to solve that problem. We're here, again, I believe the goal is to make the community more prosperous. I think we're going to see that if people don't come in angry. You're hiding stuff from me, you're doing this. When you hear, oh, I watched the select board meeting and they're going to hold the vote next week. I want people in the room. I was in the room by myself for the majority of it. There were some other people in here. But I come to select board meetings when I'm not running. I'm involved. I let the board know my opinions of things. We have town meeting members that need to hear the voice. If you're a town meeting member and you're not getting out there and hearing the community, then you're serving yourself. That's not helpful either. We need representation that's actually going to speak up and be the voice. I think if we could get more people in, we'd have a greater sense of what the community wants, not the 1% of people that are actually going to turn out and vote, which I hope it's for me. But the thing is, I will do my best to deal with it. But if you come at me angry and demanding action for X, Y, and Z, I have never heard of needing a crosswalk. I have heard of people over in that area. The planning board has had people propose sidewalk or crosswalks in certain locations, certain things we can do about that. It's not to yell and say people are giving you blanket rejection notices. It's to get involved, find out the right way to have those actions. Some of these things, the bureaucracy kills me, but it's a necessary part of it because I need to know that my tax dollars are going to things that benefit the town, not just me. I don't need them putting a crosswalk in front of my house because I want it. I need one that goes for the community so people can cross safely. I need the police department to put up their slow down signs and enforce the law. But I don't need them sitting out there speed trapping everybody. There's more important things. But I think the biggest issue is getting people involved, making them feel welcome when they are involved, making sure they're heard, because that's going to get them to say, hey, you know what? We did this as a team. We have a master plan that includes talking about a safety complex. If you're just finding out about this and angry, then that's a problem, because you have a choice to get involved, not just watch one meeting or 5 meetings. Get involved. You don't have to start at the top, but know what's going on. Don't come in here upset. Come in here with solutions, find out what's going on, and understand the bureaucracy is going to slow things down. Don't get disheartened. Continue to push through, because there is a goal. I have people on both sides of the aisle that will come to me and discuss issues. And I tell them, you know, keep the emotions in check. You can be passionate, keep the emotions in check, because no one's going to listen when you start yelling. No one's going to listen when you tell them they're not doing it right, or they're stealing things from you, or, you know, they feel that they're almighty and powerful. No, get involved. I promise you, when they talked about, the select board talked about potentially appointing the next town manager, I let them know my concerns. Don't just do it. I support the potential for Ed to be the next town manager. I'd still want a chance to interview. I'd still want a chance to meet people, understand that we have the best candidates. But the reason you have succession planning is so you can make those easier decisions. Someone that's been doing this for the town for 22 years might not be the right candidate, but you know what? He's definitely qualified. And I think that's something that shouldn't go unnoticed. I don't know if I really answered it, but I am a little upset because there are a lot of things that go on in this town, and if you want to know, you can certainly know. I don't think things are being hidden.
Thank you, Stephen. I'd be happy to read Mary's response now. The most pressing need is for elected officials and town administration to properly engage town residents in discussions that impact town residents. Currently, the chair of the select board uses social media in a creative way to reach out to town members. The meetings are recorded and the minutes are posted through the town clerk's office. A more robust effort would involve select board members reaching out rather than expecting residents to engage passively. I propose brief surveys to gauge the needs of Auburn residents on matters that impact us all. It is simply an excuse to say that if residents wish to know what is going on, they need to come to or tune in to a meeting to listen to select board members. Taxpayers pay whether we are engaged or not, so it's the responsibility of each and every select board member to reach out in order to stay current about the needs and wants of our constituents. Thank you, Mary. To Glenn for a town moderator. What is the role of the moderator in ensuring adequate debate on an article? What steps resolving conflict or competing motions what steps resolve conflicting or competing motions on the floor of town meetings?
Thank you, Caitlin. The role of the moderator is to recognize everyone who wants to speak on an article, to make sure that they have an opportunity to speak their minds, give their opinions, impart their knowledge. But as far as the fact of adequate debate, that's really up to the town meeting members. You'll have an article, and every article is different, that someone gets up and wants to move the question, which means to immediately send it to a vote. And should the town meeting members decide to do that and they vote in the affirmative, then the question is answered and we go forward from there on to the next article. So it's really not the town moderator's job to limit or to increase debate or to encourage. I mean, we want to encourage debate, but if the town meeting members decide that they want to move on to the next one, that's what we're going to do. And as far as the conflicting and competing motions, it's a strange thing that this question is even here, because we can only really handle one motion at a time. So if someone has a motion that they want to change the wording of an article, we're handling that business. And once that's decided, we're moving on to the next issue with that article. So there really aren't competing motions on each article. So,
Thank you, Glenn.
thank you.
And now for Chet's response. I tried to make sure everyone who raises their hand gets to ask their question. Second questions are only asked when everyone has had a chance to ask their first question. To avoid confusion on the floor, town meeting only has one motion on the floor at a time, as you mentioned as well, Glenn. Thank you. Back to our school committee in the corner. Now, you may have answered this in your other responses, but I'm curious to ask you this as an actual question. How would you, if at all, seek to engage with students and school staff and encourage their input on matters? You know, we've heard throughout different members of the town that sometimes they might not feel as involved as they'd like to be. So how would you, if at all, seek to engage?
So I do feel like the school committee now is doing a wonderful job of this. They do have students who are student representatives that come and report to the school committee. We saw that last night. And we also had, 2 students come and report about Model UN as well. So I thought that was wonderful. The school committee members' emails and phone numbers are public. They're on the Auburn's Guide site as well as the school. So I would always encourage students and staff to reach out. There's easy access to those. Encourage them to reach out and ask a question or raise a concern. I think that, sometimes the most negative comments are the loudest, but I think that it invites us to think and invites us to welcome that and say, okay, so you disagree, let me hear your point of view. And I think that's important to hear everyone's point of view. And when you're a teacher, you have a lot of point of views. So you have students, you have administration, you have other staff, you have parents, and you just try to always be open and welcoming to those different point of views. I would encourage anyone to email me with concerns and ideas and input. Communication is key. If you have a concern, raise it. If you need information, ask. We're public servants, so we are not meant to only think about what we want. I believe you said that as well. Like, it's not only about what I want, it's about what the town wants. And so I think that that's important. My job is to serve the town of Auburn, specifically the school committee if I'm to be elected. And I think that it's important for us to hear what you have to say. So,
Thank you, Sam. Maybe only between the hours of 9 and 5 for calling, but Brooke?
Again, Sam and I agree on that as well. I also encourage students and staff to reach out at any time. And like Sam was saying last night, we had student representatives speaking, and it was really great to see that. But I would, and as Sam also stated, the school committee members have their phone numbers and emails right on the Auburn School website. So I do encourage people to reach out at any time so that way we know their concerns or their input. I also encourage them to come to school committee meetings. It was great because there was a great turnout last night. Yeah. The room was packed. So I do encourage students and staff to come to those. But again, you can email me, you can stop me anytime. I also plan to be out at school functions and making myself available to you because sometimes you don't want to come find me. So I want to make sure that I'm right there so I can listen and hear concerns.
and we have a wide variety of ages for both of us. So we're going to be at a variety of different events from elementary to middle elementary to middle school to high school. Yes. So we'll be at everything.
Thank you both. Just as a time notice for everyone who might be rushing to get dinner after this round of questions, we'll have one more and then we'll open it up to a forum, just for time concerns. Glenn, we're going back to you in a twist of events. You and Chet have both mentioned you've lived in town for quite a while. And I'm curious, if you were trying to convince a young family to settle in Auburn, what would you say?
Well, I would use an old phrase that Joan Cassidy quoted on the Jordan Levy show about, 33 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. She was on his show. He was asking her about Auburn. She was a selectman at the time. And she said, Auburn is a nifty town. And Sandy and I have been here for 35 years. And that saying from her really has stuck with me. I think town government operates well, very responsive. The fire department is great. The police department is great. Town services are fantastic. They do a great job on the roads. And the school system is fantastic from what I hear. So, and it's going to get even better. It's a great town, and I would just tell people, absolutely, move to Auburn and come and join us at town meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. And then for Chet's statement, Auburn is definitely a family-friendly town. A young family will be looking at education, recreation, and safety, and Auburn has it all. Also, young parents have to get to work, family appointments, etc. And Auburn has the Mass Pike, 290, 390, 95, and more. Many stores to meet a family's needs are also very accessible. For the selectman position, this is a bit of a longer question too, so let me know if we need repeating.
Bring it.
I love the enthusiasm. Just want to thank everyone also too for being here. I expected maybe a few people, so to see this many people interested in local government is truly fantastic. I myself took a train to get here, so we're all very excited. The select board and town administration have been considering how to spend roughly $5 million allocated to the town through the American Rescue Plan Act. So far, some of the funds have been expended for PPE, impact shifts at the fire department, and for AYFS. What are your thoughts on how to best allocate the remaining funds?
So I think the current select board has opened up public meeting on this and has solicited input, and they have received some. I will say there's a lot of work that's gone into the master plan, the open space plan, understanding the needs of the community. It's not a one-off. There were lots of surveys done to get that. I would look to see what is allowable to use those funds there, potentially in creating passive use of some of the land that we have. We talk a lot about trails, and during a pandemic, a lot of people got back outside. Also, technology, what can we do from a school perspective, right? That was a big hiccup that nobody expected. What are we doing to plan for the future? How can we use that money in a way that can set us up for success should anything like this happen? Again, I don't think anyone planned a pandemic, but we have essentially, I don't want to say a blank check, but we have money that has come back to us. And we have a lot of projects that need to get done, some that were pushed off. I would look at that. I'd prioritize what needs to get done, what the funds can be used for, because it still is a little bit iffy. There is some money going towards Camp Gleason, and I think that will be a great community use. And again, community use, what can we do? Can we allocate the money based on how many people it will affect? You know, I don't want money that's needlessly spent. The other thing is a lot of the work that I've done on the open space committee as well. There's grant money available. So I want to make sure before we allocate any of the money that's coming back to us that there aren't grants available to help fund that. And if there are grants available, we'll push that towards the end if we're eligible for the grants and receive them. I think our current administration has done a great job in getting those funds back to our community. We're a small community, and we have received a lot of grants that we wouldn't normally get. So I appreciate that. I think, did that answer the question? I'm sorry. You would have said my words so much better.
No, that was perfect. Thank you, Stephen. And again, for anyone interested in more about those funds or about the Rescue Plan Act, I encourage you to find resources online for specifics. This is Mary's answer. Once again, I am less invested in pontificating about my own opinions regarding allocations and completely invested in the input of community members on the use of the remaining funds. While I agree that systems need to be financially replenished due to protective measures during this horrid period in history due to COVID-19, I want transparency as a taxpayer, and I commit to transparency as an elected public servant. And our final question for the school committee candidates. Actually, looking outside of Auburn, what education initiative from another community would you work to bring into the Auburn School District or find really valuable?
I know I've stated this earlier, but I'd like to say it again. We are very fortunate to have the school system that we do. We have so much available to our kids. I thought long and hard on this question, and my answer is not so much what I would like to see from another community, because the reality is I don't follow many other school districts. My concern has always been Auburn. Some of the things that I would like to see is more available after-school clubs for the elementary levels. I think back of the days I talked about earlier, community celebration. I saw so many kids get up in front of their peers in the community and perform. A lot of those kids were shy, but they got up with determination. And I saw many of those kids later in life who have told me that it gave them confidence. This is what I want to see, especially after 2 years with COVID. I want to see our kids get back out there and conquer. They deserve that. How that happens, I haven't quite pinpointed it yet, but I'm sure with the help of the current school committee members and all the wonderful and dedicated people that we have working with us, that we will get it done.
So I just want to touch on something that Brooke said. I love the idea of after-school clubs. There is a great one called, I think it was called Girls Run at Swiss, and that was wonderful. I think that Auburn has so many great programs. So certain initiatives that they've already had, which is the 21st Century Learning and the Technology and Engineering program, which is what our students need to be successful. The alternative high school programs like Bright and Project Enterprise, and also the virtual high school. So Auburn is at the forefront. One of the things that was recently brought to my attention that another town is currently working on is a 2 to 3 day professional development program, which is more of like a consortium of a group of different professional developments. And that goes back to what I talked about, what teachers need to be successful in the classroom. And so teachers get to choose the professional development they go to in this multi-day program. It's all catered to what the town would need. So if we find that we have an issue with social emotional learning, that would be catered towards that. And I loved this. It hasn't been put out yet, but the person who brought it to my attention, my first thought as a teacher was, can I be invited to that? Because it sounded amazing. Because I can pick what works best for me as a teacher. All the professional development would be pertinent to the needs specifically of Auburn, or we could work with another school district. I know in the past that Auburn and Leicester have done groupings together, and I think that's wonderful. Like I've said before, I think what we need is to give our teachers what they need to be successful. We need good, viable professional development, so we're better equipped to handle all the challenges that are facing us now. And I think knowing what you said about technology is that many teachers were not up to par on what we needed to do for technology. I mean, I had coworkers calling me in tears. I don't know how to do this. And I would sit outside 6 feet away from them trying to show them how to Zoom. This was very stressful all around. And I, as a parent, stressful, but as a teacher, equally, if not more so sometimes, because we were flying by the seat of our pants. So I think we need to look ahead and look to the future and say, what can we give the teachers so that if this ever, God forbid, happens again, that we are on the forefront of that and we know what to expect. So I think all those things, offering this great professional development from important people all over the area, is really going to help us to be successful and to make, and if we can do it here in Auburn, then we can get other school districts to buy in and participate with us, and maybe create more of a type of consortium where we have this 2 to 3 day professional development across all districts. And so we are working together with other towns and other communities.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Sam. And thank you for answering all of my tough questions that I've thrown at you. Moving on to our last question for Town Moderator. The Town Moderator is responsible for appointing residents to any committee that is established by the town meeting body. How would you work to ensure that the best representation is accomplished for the makeup of any committee you would appoint?
Well, I would seek out minority candidates for this board. If they would present themselves, or that would be even better. But I really think that this is a very good question to ask the entire town. because it's a question about diversity. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of diversity in town government and in the departments. I'm not sure about the school department, but I think it's something that we should look at on a broader scale.
Awesome. Thank you. Chat's response for this one is ask for volunteers from all 5 precincts in town, along with representatives from whatever departments are involved. Thank you, Chet. Thank you both as well. And now our final question for Select Board.
Is it short?
It is a short one, don't worry.
I have all night. I'll stay here and answer any questions.
The Board of Selectmen will be responsible, you actually touched on this, but I want to ask it as a question. The Board of Selectmen will be responsible for hiring the next town manager. What qualities will you look for in the candidates?
Not just the candidates and people. I look for integrity, right? But for the candidates themselves for it, I'd look for someone with a growth mindset. You know, we have future ahead of us and a lot to plan for. And without that mindset, we wouldn't have additional plans in place to support that. We need to be ready to apply for grants. We need to be ready to adjust on the fly. You know, again, the pandemic really helped show that there's a glaring need for that. The town did a great job with what we had. So I need somebody that's going to understand government. They're going to need to understand how to work with the department heads to understand their needs before they need them, understand or communicate with the town bodies and work with, you know, local and regional commissions to make sure that they're ready for those grants, should they be there, make sure we have the right documentation in place. And somebody who can articulate why things are important, right? So I think we all come at it and say things are done behind closed doors. They're not. We might not fully understand it. I have to ask the questions all the time. Government is tricky for a reason, and somebody that knows how to navigate that and get us the right answers. And when I say us, anyone on a board or commission, you have a duty to act responsibly and in a certain way. That we need that guidance, and sometimes we don't have it right there. So I need a town manager that's going to understand that, understand the rules, and make sure that we don't do anything that's illegal or improper. But integrity is the biggest thing. If you have integrity, you can dish the good stuff, you can dish the bad stuff, you can communicate with us. And I say us as a community, if you're willing to receive the information, it's there. Except I will say there are non-disclosures when you get into certain things that you can't discuss. So there isn't 100% transparency, but that's for the law. That's not to hide things from people. That's to protect everyone else. So.
Thank you, Stephen. And I'm just going to read Mary's statement as well. I want the next town manager to be a resident of Auburn to ensure that he or she is thoroughly invested and impacted by all decisions made by the Select Board. I am concerned that we as a community have yet to be properly informed about the candidates and provided with their credentials to ensure we have an equitable access to a decision that will involve paying a town manager nearly $250,000 annually. Again, I have not fact-checked any of these numbers. This is simply a candidate statement. Our current town manager has many impressive skills in management, but has not demonstrated the supervisory skills necessary to ensure regular and timely performance evaluations in all departments. As a direct result, taxpayers receive varied quality control in communication and customer service in Auburn. The next town manager needs to earn the trust and respect of the Select Board by providing transparency in all matters. He or she needs to create a brand with a leadership team that is characterized as skilled, responsive, respectful, and professionalism at all times. That concludes our predetermined round of questioning. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to audience questions before you jump out of your seats. We're unable to take questions, obviously, from Mary for Select Board and Chet, as they are both not here, and it wouldn't be fair to answer for them. But I invite you to reach out to those candidates personally with any questions for them. I'm happy to provide any contact information. As a note, I have a right to determine if a question is inappropriate or not for this forum, and may deny your question if it is a deeply personal question regarding a candidate's sexuality, religion, race, ethnicity, anything really, really personal that's not appropriate. At this time, if anyone would like to, we have a podium right here that I'm happy to have anyone ask a question at. I ask that you please direct it to one set of candidates, not the whole board for time's sake. And I also ask the candidates to keep it relatively brief. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to step up to the podium and go ahead. I see a hesitant face. Is that a hesitant face? No. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Seeing as there are none, you guys love to keep it brief for me. I appreciate it.
You just did a great job articulating.
Yes.
You didn't ask me my last question.
Oh, I didn't ask anyone their last question because you answered it so beautifully, Glenn. So at this time, I'd actually like to invite all the candidates to do a 2-minute closing statement to kind of wrap up what everyone's heard today from all the candidates. So if anyone would like, if we'd like to, okay, left from right, maybe? Sure.
First of all, I want to thank Tristan and Caitlin for putting this all together. I have to say that even though I get up in front of 80 some odd students on a daily basis, this was more nerve-wracking than anything. But I really am appreciative of you guys for putting this together. I think this was wonderful. It definitely got me to hear some other candidates that I might not have been able to hear. I want to thank Brooke, I'm going to call you my running mate, because I'm excited to meet someone new in Auburn, and I feel like I made a new friend. I want to thank my husband, who is running around like a crazy man right now with my 2 children, and of course my family, who are very supportive of what I'm doing. I hope to see everyone at the polls on May 17th, and I hope that you will circle in Brooke for the 2-year spot and myself for the 3-year spot. So thank you guys very much, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Brooke?
Again, I'd like to thank Tristan and Caitlin for taking the time to put this forum together, not only for us candidates, but for all of you. I'd like to thank the Auburn community for making the town that we call home so great, because it really is great. I'd also like to thank those who have supported me. Your support has meant so much, and I really, really need to thank my family. They are the reason I do what I do, and their love and support pushes me to always do my best. I agree with Sam. I feel like we had a great opportunity to meet and talk and discuss things, and I as well think that I gained a friend from this, and I do really look forward to sitting down on school committee with her, and I hope to see you all at the polls on Tuesday, May 17th, and you vote for Sam for the 3-year seat and me for the 2-year seat. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you as well. Glenn?
I'd also like to thank Caitlin and Tristan again.
How lovely.
For putting on this event. In times of chaos at town meeting, I believe that we need more effective leadership. And that is what I would like to try and provide, because it gets sometimes very chaotic on the town meeting floor. And you need someone there to sort it out and to keep track of things and make sure that things are going smoothly and effectively. And I believe that I offer the best opportunity for that to happen going forward. And I would like to respectfully ask for everyone's vote for town moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. And I'm going to read a brief pre-prepared statement from chat. Do not be afraid to ask questions. What does this involve? How much time is involved? Do I have skills to contribute? When and where are meetings held, and how often? Think about what you might enjoy doing. Watch cable TV and see some meetings to find out what is being discussed. Thank you, Chet. And now I'm going to hand it over to Stephen.
I'd like Mary to go.
You like Mary to go? Sure.
Fair.
Thank you. So this is Mary's brief statement at the end. I'm assuming I'm reading off of the phone. As a lifelong educator, communicator, coach, and foster parent, I have had to hone the leadership skills necessary to have difficult conversations and to be deliberate about when to choose flexibility and when to hold a firm, hard line. Transparency for me is a non-negotiable item in public life. Thank you in advance for your vote on Tuesday, May 17th. And I'll end it with you, Stephen.
I'll blanket thank everybody rather than calling everyone out so I don't miss anyone. I would like to just say if you want to be involved, there are many opportunities. I found that. I'm passionate about it. I've spent the good majority of my time in the community talking to people with different backgrounds and expanding my sphere because I don't believe there's always one right answer. I would say I'm not a yes vote on everything, and I'm not a no vote. I'm not an obstructionist. We have things that we need to get done, and there is common ground. I do think healthy debate is definitely required, and that will make us better. And we need to make sure that we have those debates, whether it's additional forums. I can tell you, I've seen the select board reach out numerous times trying to get engagement, get people for committees. It's not always easy to get that or get responses, but they're doing their best. The board, the select board is there to take the complaints of the community. I'm not going to go out in the community and ask you what's wrong. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say, how can we make it better, right? It's not about being negative on those aspects. It's about improving what we have, building upon it, and it's not a people person. I would welcome everyone. If you got yelled at on a committee before, come back in, right? We're open. We're looking for that. We want it, and we need it because we grow when we learn from differing opinions. We just have to do it in a respectful manner. And that's really what it comes down to is I will be that voice. I will listen. I will help you communicate whatever needs to get communicated to get an action. I can't tell you it's the action you want because that's not always right. I've never promised anybody anything, but we will get you an answer. You might not like it, but get on a board or committee and understand what goes into that. It's not as simple as I want this and it's going to happen. No, be inclusive, include the community, include the town meeting. That town meeting members are the most important meeting or members of our community. And we need them to step up and help for this, unless we go back to a non-representative town meeting. But chances are we get even fewer people at that point because at least with town meeting, representative town meeting, we know that those people signed up and we need that. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'd just love to give a round of applause for all of our candidates tonight. Thank you all so much. It means the world that you guys are here, as well as our audience members. As a reminder, the town election is actually scheduled for May 17th. The polling hours are from 8 to 8 p.m. And I encourage everyone to get out and vote. Oftentimes we think that the national decisions, right, are so important and affect our lives, but it's really what happens in this room and in those town meetings. So I invite everyone to really get out there, get out the vote. And if anyone has any individual questions for our candidates, I think they might be hanging around. And I got you out before 6:30. Thank you all.
Thank you.